Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. This is the 116th episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but today we got a full slate of updates to break down for you because there's a lot going on with the Hawks and really just around the NBA in general. This first week of the regular season, there's been no shortage of action. I know last night we got like two 50 bombs, one from Shea and one from Aaron Gordon. He shot like 10 for 11 from three. That was absolutely ridiculous. Also, I mean, Curry dropped 42. I mean, literally the NBA is so fun so far this season. And so hopefully the Hawks can kind of get in on that fun action because, wow, that was not a fun opening night. Just a few nights ago, they lost 118 to 138 in front of their home crowd to the Toronto Raptors. Very disappointing start to the year, but they have a chance to bounce back tonight. And while there's a lot of, frustration surrounding that team's performance, there are definitely some positives. And there's one storyline that might, be getting a little overlooked, and that is Zachary Risaché's quiet but incredibly effective night. While he may be questionable for the game tonight, we don't have any further update on that. We do know it's a right ankle sprain and he's questionable. He depending on his health, he could have an interesting role in the game tonight. And so we're gonna talk about his role in general. Why Quinn Snyder might already be facing one of the toughest early season decisions. He's got a lot to consider as he's managing these minutes and just moving into a new era of Hawks basketball. So I mean, after such a strong showing, if Riza can give it a go, there's a real argument that he should be playing over 30 minutes a night. And he didn't in last night's games. I mean, not last night's game, the game a few nights ago. So we're going to break all of that down. We're also going to go over Trae Young's post-game comments and discuss the Hawks' defensive collapse on opening night because that was really the summary of the game. I mean, they didn't play super well offensively, but we saw pretty much what we wanted to see out of like the big three and really the core, except for Dyson because he got in foul trouble early. And then we're also going to break down Kristaps Porzingis' surprising health update. He was dealing with that mystery illness in the postseason last year, which ultimately led to Boston not retaining him and deciding to go ahead and move off of his salary. And that ended up with him landing in Atlanta, but he got an official diagnosis for what that was. And so we're going to break that down and talk about the potential long-term impacts of that. And then also we're going to finish today's episode with a full preview of tonight's matchup against the Orlando Magic, the second game of the season. And so there's some excitement there, a real chance to kind of like flip the momentum into what this season is and just really show that the Atlanta Hawks are not to be messed with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it and talk about the bright spot from a few nights ago, one of the lone bright spots, Zachary Risachet. He was really good in the short minutes that he got. So despite the Hawks' 20-point loss, Risachet, Atlanta's starting small forward and second year forward, his performance was arguably the most encouraging takeaway from game one of the 82-game season. Long season, by the way. Long season. The 20-year-old showed flashes of everything the Hawks had hoped for him when they drafted him number one overall last year. I mean, showed significant improvements on stuff that we needed to see improvements of. His athleticism looked great. The two-way potential looked great, and the knack for making all the right plays in transition. I mean, he was in a night where Atlanta was getting killed in transition. He was a very positive transition player. His stat line is not something that is going to blow you away. I mean, he had 16 points in 21 minutes, and so I mean, like that looks good. If you don't look at if you don't even count the 21 minutes that he played, and if you see 16 points on efficient shooting, then you're going to be a little impressed. But then it gets even more impressive when you see that he only played 21 minutes. That doesn't even really paint the whole picture. I mean, he was playing pretty solid defense. He was one of the lone Hawks that wasn't getting lost on these cuts, and he's staying composed on that end while also getting out in transition at a high rate. It was good to see, and it was very encouraging. And if he can build on that moving forward Atlanta is going to really be set at small forward, just really for the future. What makes this performance just really all the more interesting is just how little he played early on. And I wrote an entire article about this because it was a little concerning. And this is before he, kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, and that's what's making him questionable for tonight's game. So it clearly wasn't because of the ankle injury as to why he didn't play a whole lot of minutes through the first quarter and a half. And I was kind of confused by this. I tweeted something about it. I was like, I don't know why Reza Shay's only played this amount of minutes, but he logged just 5 minutes in the first quarter and a half, and all these bench guys were playing more than him, and I was like, what is going on? Fans online started to notice and question why Atlanta's maybe one of the most versatile defenders on the team, and just players in general. I mean, he can play on ball, he can play off the ball. He's an amazing cutter, and just killing it in transition. In a game where, once again, Atlanta was getting killed in transition. He was sitting on the bench during Toronto's early scoring runs, and when Quinn Snyder finally brought him back into the game with I don't have the exact stats, but it was 5 or 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and he let him close out that quarter. The difference was immediate, and this is what kept the Atlanta Hawks in the game. If he had decided to not bring Reza Shea back into the game, Atlanta would have been down by a significant amount at halftime, and the outcome of the game would have been even worse, because that was the only reason Hawks fans had any bit of hope. The Hawks went on probably their best run of the game when they subbed Reza Shea back in at the end of the second quarter, trimming what had been a pretty big deficit down to just 6 by halftime. So it was a close game. It was a 2-possession game entering the half. So I mean, there was still some hype when Quavo came out and performed at halftime. Hawks fans were like, okay, this is something where it's rough start, but they're gonna get it together as the game goes on, and that's simply not what happened. But Reza Shea's performance gave them hope for that. He looked comfortable. He was cutting off passing lanes. He was running the floor. He was giving the team a defensive spark that it needed in a game where the defense looked awful. And it sucks that the defense looked awful in game one, because that was really the biggest thing that Atlanta had improved on, just over the past 2 years, really. It all started when they traded DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans for Dyson Daniels. The culture really began to shift. Atlanta was definitely leaning more defensive, and they brought in a great shot blocker in the offseason and an amazing on-ball defender, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who in game one had a horrific offensive performance, but he was still impactful. That's the thing. He's a guy who can impact a game even if his shot is not falling, and that's what makes Nickeil extremely special and why he's going to be such a valuable pickup down the line for Atlanta. But as the second half started, back to the game spiraled, as we all know. I'm sure you guys all watched it if you're tuning into this video. Toronto's transition attack was just way too much for Atlanta. It was relentless, and for reasons that kind of remain unclear. Now, second half, we can kind of maybe start to blame it on the ankle injury a little bit, but it didn't seem like something that was going to keep him sidelined. I mean, this wasn't anything that looked significant at all. Maybe they were being just cautious, and they're going to play him more in the future. But I mean, he saw limited floor time in the second half as well. It left many wondering. I mean, was this a minutes restriction, a coach's decision, or was it injury related? Did it have to do with that ankle injury that might keep him sidelined for this upcoming game? As it turns out, it may be a combination of all three. All of those factors may have gone into the decision to play Reza Shea only 21 minutes while giving Luke Kennard 24 and Nickeil Alexander-Walker 27. Actually, no, it was Luke who had 27. It was Nickeil who had 24, who both were shooting the ball pretty terribly. The team later listed Reza Shea, like I said, as questionable for tonight's game against the Orlando Magic with that right ankle sprain, and it's something that occurred during the opener, but that's what I'm saying. It didn't keep him from playing, because even while, that was something that the Hawks had real concern about, they wouldn't have played him in the second half. I mean, we were losing. It was in that third quarter, it became increasingly clear that we were going to lose, and by a wide margin. They wouldn't have even brought him back into the game. And so it's kind of thing where it's I don't think that's why Reza Shea played limited minutes. So all of this makes Quinn Snyder's next decision even trickier. If Reza Shea's healthy enough to go even tonight, there's a strong argument that he should be seeing 28 to 30 minutes a night, maybe over 30 minutes a night, just based on how impactful he was in game one. And really moving forward, I mean, I think this is a guy, who he played 24 minutes a night in his rookie season. That number needs to go up. There's no reason it should be staying the same or even under, which, he saw in opening night. His off-ball movement and his transition defense make him a must-play in today's NBA, and especially by Trae Young and the rest of this group, where, Kristaps Porzingis does well with the ball in his hands, so does Jalen Johnson, and obviously Trae Young does. But when you have a specialized off-ball scorer, that can go a very long way for a lineup. And just really provide them with the spark that they need. And a fast-paced team tonight, like the Magic, we're gonna need him, and I hope he can give it a go. Now, if Rizuche were to sit tonight, look for like Nickeil Alexander-Walker to get the starting nod, and that's not even a bad shot. I mean, that lineup of Trey, Dyson, Nah, and Jalen and Kristaps could be pretty lethal. And so I would still be excited for the game and for, really to see what a guy like Nickeil can do in the starting lineup. Maybe it's the perfect opportunity for Nickeil to kind of get back on track shooting wise. But, I do hope Quinn can give it a go. So Quinn faces that coaching dilemma. He's got to balance development with health and team chemistry. And it's really hard to ignore what Zachary Rizuche can bring to this lineup when he is healthy and really excelling at the way we know he can. So now let's go ahead and move on to what Trey said post game, because after the loss, Trey didn't hold back, and it's good. And throughout Trey's career in Atlanta, he hasn't seriously been known to hold back, and I like that. I think that's good. I think that's what you need out of your star: transparency. He was speaking to an ESPN reporter after last night's. I keep saying last night. It just wasn't last night. It was like 2 nights ago. But he, like I said, he did not hold back. So speaking to the ESPN reporter, Young said, "I don't think there's too many positives you can take away from tonight. It's embarrassing the way we started it. A lot of it comes from the preseason. Obviously, it carried over. We didn't play all 5 of us. You could tell by the continuity we had out there. It wasn't right. But the cream always rises to the top. We got some time to make it up and got to get going." It's an honest assessment of what we saw on the court a few nights ago, because there weren't many positives from the game. And honestly, Trey's performance wasn't a positive. Now, we saw flashes from Trey. He definitely made some elite plays, but I mean, the consistency was not there. Trey usually starts most seasons off like shooting the ball pretty terribly, and he gets it together as the season progresses. And so these next 2 games might be a little rough for him as well. But I mean, I believe in him to kind of put it together. I mean, you got the Magic, who Trey notoriously struggles against, another in-division opponent that Trey doesn't always play his best ball against. Also, the Thunder, who had a historic defensive season last year, and honestly, they don't look. I mean, we're gonna see who's on that injury report when they come to Atlanta tomorrow, and because I mean they just came off of 2 straight double overtime games. They played 4 overtimes in their first 2 games of the season, so maybe they rest some guys in Atlanta. I don't know if they will or not, but like I said, regardless, like OKC is a very, very good defense, so. It's a tough start to the season, man. We're going to break that down a little bit more later in the episode when we talk about the game day preview for tonight. But, I mean, Trey is really right about everything he said regarding the game a few nights ago against the Raptors. I mean, just disappointing. The Hawks looked completely out of sync. The offensive flow was seriously off, but the biggest issue was on the defensive end. But talking about offensive end, I mean, the spacing disappeared early. I mean, they didn't shoot the ball very well from 3. The team also gave up 12 offensive rebounds to Toronto. I mean, Toronto was killing it on the offensive glass. Definitely outperforming Atlanta in that category. It was really frustrating. It was one of the worst rebounding performances I had seen in some time. And we've said what we needed to say about Clint Capella, and obviously he's not a very impactful player in 2025. But in losing him for Kristaps Porzingis, the Hawks, they did lose some rebounding, and that is a very valuable asset if you're trying to win in the NBA today, because there's some very big forces in the paint. You got to be able to grab a rebound, and the Hawks did not do that. They're getting completely out-rebounded by guys like Pirtle and Mamu, who was a very underrated pickup for Toronto. And defensively, very big issue as well. 7 different Raptors finished in double figures. They were led by RJ Barrett's 25 points. The Raptors scored 86 points in the paint. Yes, 86 points in the paint. And that's ridiculous. I mean, Atlanta was getting cooked defensively. I mean, the bigs were really bad defensively, and I really hope it doesn't continue like this, because I mean, Porzingis is a good shot blocker due to his size, and he's a talented defender, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's 30 years old. He's dealt with injuries. He's not the quickest laterally. I mean, he's someone who's going to get beat, but Onyeka Okongwu is not someone who I like to see just get beat to the paint every time down. and scored on with ease. And it wasn't a very good defensive performance for Onyeka. It was actually one of the worst performances defensively that I had seen out of him. He was very effective offensively, but man, we've got to put it together in the paint. I don't know why it was so easy to get into the paint. I mean, the Hawks were getting beat on all of the backdoor cuts and all of these off-ball movements, and just it's putting it simply, Toronto outplayed them in every way. If you talk about the 86 points in the paint and the 34 points that they scored in transition, I mean, that is a nightmare combo for a team that spent the entire offseason claiming that defense was going to continue to be their identity. Like I said earlier, is the growing identity since they got Dyson Daniels. As that continued, as Dyson's game kind of got implemented into the system, all these other guys were motivated to play defense at a high level. And when they did that, Atlanta's defense came from one of the worst in the league to middle of the league, and we expect it to continue to grow. But that was not exactly the showing we wanted to see. But simply, Toronto got whatever shot they wanted whenever they wanted, and when offensively, let's look at the numbers offensively. Things weren't much better. The Hawks shot just 42% from the floor and 29% from deep. They were actually 10 for 35 from 3-point range. And Trey finished with 22 and 9. No, not 9. He 22 and 5. He didn't have 9 assists, but he turned the ball over twice, so definitely wasn't what we wanted to see from him there. Turnover-wise, that's pretty good for Trey, but the assist-to-turnover ratio wasn't there because he only had 5 assists, which was unlike him. But honestly, I'm putting that on the first game with really not a new system, but definitely some new guys out there. So I definitely expect his assist numbers to go up tonight, and his comments reflect the tone of the entire locker room. They're frustrated, but they're not defeated. It's game 1 of 82. The season's long, and but there is some concern to be had if the Hawks want to be a playoff team. The level of defensive inconsistency that they had, it's not going to cut it, and they need to get it together tonight against Orlando. So one storyline that's kind of flying a bit under the radar right now, and I don't really know why, because it's been a major storyline of his career, but it's the health of Kristaps Porzingis, and that was what was talked about a lot when he was with the Boston Celtics. And, the Celtics are going to get more media attention regardless. And, that's just what comes with the territory, unfortunately. But after a long time of speculation of what the illness was that kept Porzingis kind of playing terribly in the last postseason, it was being called a mystery illness. But The Athletic did some deep diving onto that, and they confirmed that Porzingis had been diagnosed with POTS and POTS. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that whole thing, but POTS is what it is called, the acronym for it in the medical field. Now, to give a little bit of a quick understanding, it's a cardiovascular condition that affects how the blood circulates when someone changes posture, or when standing. Essentially, when getting up or doing quick movements. I mean, blood flow to the upper body can lag behind, causing symptoms like rapid heart rate, fatigue, or dizziness. And that's what Porzingis was dealing with last postseason when he was playing the worst ball of his career. And so, that is what it's kind of that's why it happened. I mean, I don't know why people were trying to say that Porzingis he was washed, he was just tired, he wasn't giving his full effort. I mean, he was doing what he could with this illness. He reportedly experienced fatigue and elevated heart rate, which makes sense given the diagnosis, and that explains the real struggles with endurance that he had in the postseason, even late last season and just into the playoffs. I mean, this just wasn't Kristaps Porzingis who was on the court. I mean, he was a shell of himself. And so I'm very glad that he seems to have, this is something that lasts with you throughout your life, but this isn't something that has affected him so far, but it's going to be something to monitor as the season, just progresses on and the Hawks, start playing more meaningful games. The good news is that nothing like this is career ending or life threatening, but it's going to require very careful management from the Hawks training staff and just coaching staff. They're going to kind of have to adopt more of a load management approach. I'm not saying that KP is going to load manage every other game, but they're going to be careful with his minutes at times, especially as we get later into the season, because we know how important he is to this lineup. And, as he gets more comfortable in the scheme that Atlanta has and, playing alongside Trey and the rest of these guys, he's going to become more important and more important, as we progress during the season, and he gets more comfortable, like I said. So I mean, maybe we got to consider him resting on back to backs or limiting minutes when symptoms potentially flare up. Although hopefully that's not something that has to we have to have a whole lot of concern about. And Porzingis, if we disregard this, I mean, he's someone who has dealt with injury after injury after injury throughout his career. I mean, that's been the story of his career, but it hasn't fully impacted his resume. I mean, this is still a guy who's an NBA champ. He's an NBA All-Star, and he's built a very solid career. But this diagnosis finally gives some context to some of the unexplained fatigue issues that he faced last season. Even at media day, he didn't say anything about it. He was just like, we don't really know what it was, but I'm fully recovered now, and I'm ready to go for this season. So now we have a diagnosis. It provides some clarity on a very interesting situation that honestly concerned Hawks fans, because I mean, we didn't give up a whole lot to get him, to bring him into Atlanta, but it's still something that it concerns you, because like this is one of the best pickups of the offseason, considering what we gave up for him. But if he didn't play a whole lot, and if he wasn't playing at the high level that we know KP for, then it's like, what's the point? I mean, why would we even get excited? But I mean, even in game one, he dropped 20 points and I think like 7 rebounds. And he shot the ball really well. He was like 4 or 7 from deep. So hopefully he can continue on that trend. And, he looked really healthy. And so hopefully he can just continue to get quicker laterally, on the defensive end. And hopefully it's not too much of a liability as we progress into the season. He looks very solid in Eurobasket as Latvia's number 1 option. And preseason action, he looked good. And yeah, like I said, opening night, he was great and on the offensive end. So it's the little things that he needs to get better at. So like I said, I mean, there's just optimism that he can manage all of this, but still it's going to be something to monitor all season long. I mean, this is an important season for the Atlanta Hawks. They don't want to mess around and get KP completely fatigued before the postseason, which they should be in if they don't play like they did opening night for the rest of the season, which they won't. There's nothing to be concerned about because tonight we got a game against the Orlando Magic. Let's go ahead and look ahead to what we got tonight, and maybe even look ahead to what we have tomorrow. They have little time to dwell on their rough opener because they've got a back-to-back starting tonight. They're going to be on the road tonight in Orlando to take on the Orlando Magic, a division rival who had a very good offseason. They're an energetic team who are coming off of a big 125-121 win over the Miami Heat. So the Magic are 1-0 and the Hawks are 0-1. So let's say the Hawks win tonight, the Magic lose. We are going to both be knotted up at 1-1, making this division race very tight. They are obviously led by Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero, and the very good young duo with a whole lot of potential, and that's why people are really so high on the Orlando Magic this season, just considering that their young core is going to continue to develop, and they also surrounded them with a very good squad. In that first game, Banchero and Wagner, they combined for 48 points in game one, just doing stuff that we know that they can do. They both are very high-level scorers while also being very solid defenders. And yeah, they had one of the best pickups of the offseason, bringing in Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies. It's definitely one of the more unexpected moves, but when you really look at it on paper, that was perfect for them. I mean, he's not someone who's going to be super ball dominant, but he is kind of the playmaker that they have been looking for, while also bringing in much needed spacing. I mean, he's a career, I don't know what his numbers are for his career, but I think he's around a 40% three-point shooter for his career. So very efficient from beyond the arc, kind of exactly what Orlando needed. That was the one thing that really kind of held them back last year. While they were still young and there wasn't super high expectations for them, they were expected to be better than they were, but they were held back because of their spacing. And so that's been a team that a lot of people have been like, why don't the Hawks trade Trae Young to them? And that would honestly be a perfect fit if I'm being real. But Trae's ours. And hopefully that never picks up any traction because that would be pretty lethal. But basically Desmond Bane, disregarding everything that he provides, and simply that's going to be just another layer of scoring that Atlanta's going to have to contain. It's going to be a tough task for their defense, who really struggled. So it's going to be a crucial early season test. The Hawks can get back on track tonight and have a very impressive defensive outing. All of a sudden, all the momentum that was lost in game one, it will be all the way back because this is a very good Orlando Magic team. If Riza can play, expect him to play a key defensive role on either Wagner or Banchero. Probably Dyson Daniels will get the go on Franz, and then Paulo will probably get Jalen Johnson or even Riza. It's going to be really interesting to see how they do that because Let's say Reese Shea doesn't play, Nikhil will likely sign into that starting lineup, and he'll probably have the primary matchup on a guy like Desmond Bain. Or, I mean, that's the thing. Maybe even Dyson Daniels will guard Desmond Bain. I don't really know how they're going to manage all of this because it's an interesting matchup, like size-wise. So I guess we're going to really just see when it tips off at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. That's another thing. It's a little bit of an earlier start. It's going to be at 7, not 7:30. So if you're tuning into that, which if y'all are tuning into this, I assume you're tuning in tonight. Be sure to remember that it is a little bit of an earlier tip-off. Atlanta cannot afford another defensive meltdown, especially with a quick team like the Orlando Magic. And also, they've got the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder coming into town tomorrow night. And, while they just played two double overtime games, which they actually won both. I mean, they're a clutch team. That's why they were NBA champions last year. They won that Game 7. Ice in SGA's veins, but while also shooting like 26 free throws. That was kind of ridiculous last night. I expect to be very upset with that whistle tomorrow night, but we don't want to focus too much on that game, even though OKC could be out a bunch of players. It's a very big opportunity for Atlanta to get back on track. A win tonight would be huge. You can go into the OKC game tomorrow with a little bit of momentum, and a chance to get over 500 against the defending champs. That is a big opportunity to gain some hype as the season, but it's not time to panic. But I mean, if you lose this game against Orlando, you have a real shot at starting the season 0-3, which still early, still very early actually, and a lot of time to turn it around. But starting 0-3, considering this team's expectations, would be just an extremely disappointing way to start the season. And some fans, obviously, I wouldn't tap out because, I mean, it's kind of my job, but some fans would tap out. And if they start 0-3, I mean, we're going to start to see less people go to the games, and the team chemistry is going to be a little bit off. And, obviously, enough time to turn it around, but we don't want to start 0-3. That would be an extremely disappointing way after an extremely hyped up offseason where the Hawks got more national love than they've really ever got. So the focus tonight needs to be simple. I mean, improve communication on defense. Don't get lost on backdoor cuts. I mean, basketball 101. You got to close defensive possession with rebounds. Maybe even do some stuff on the offensive glass. I mean, I know that's a tough ask, but man, I mean, we got killed with that with Toronto. So hopefully that can improve. We got to find a rhythm offensively. I mean, we've got to play quicker. We got to get Trey on the ball more. A lot of people were talking about all off season we want to get Trey off the ball, but look at how the offense looked when we didn't have this was the least Trey's been on the ball in his career in that opening night. I mean, I like the point Jalen minutes. I like, that they were more comfortable doing that. But, I mean, again, you got to go through your generational offensive engine. So we're going to see if the Hawks can bounce back and show that the opener was just an off night tonight at 7 p.m. against the division rival Orlando Magic. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. Let me know down below in the comments. What do you think about tonight's matchup against the Orlando Magic? What are you expecting? What do you think this team can do? And can they bounce back, start their season 1-1 with the Thunder in town tomorrow? What do you think about Zachary Reese-Shay's performance, KP's illness, and Trey's comments post-game? Let me know all of that down below. But once again, I'm Zach Langley, a.k.a. Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.